Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice. And welcome to our show. This is a new program for us. We used to have this hour on Friday morning at 9 a.m., but now we are here. And we just finished our other program about human sexuality, which started at 3 p.m. And now here we are talking about trauma, addictions, codependency, and relationships. And Dr. Robert Jaffe is going to be joining us in a few minutes. And he's my business partner and my dear friend and also my colleague. So while we are waiting for Dr. Jaffe to join us, I'd like to encourage you and to invite you to please, call us. We want to hear from you about your experiences, about the matters and challenges that you are experiencing in your life as a result of addictions and codependency. And we want to hear from you. We want to know what's been like for you to go through some of these challenges, or living with somebody who has these experiences, or you may know of somebody that you don't live with, but you know that they are suffering from addictions and any form of trauma, and also codependency, or they have challenges in their life. And then so our phone number live here is 951-922-3532, and it's 951-922-3532. We are also on YouTube, and our YouTube channel address is heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And pretty soon we are upgrading and updating our YouTube programs, and so we are introducing them to you as soon as they are ready for you. And of course, we have other products that we are going to be introducing them to you as they are completed and they are uploaded to our system. So welcome, Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, and we're also welcoming our audience and our listeners who are joining us for the first time today, right? And then a warm, heartfelt happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And it's on Sunday, and we hope that you have a great time with your loved ones. And if you don't have anybody next to you to celebrate with, be your own Valentine.
Absolutely.
So I introduced the program about codependency, addictions, and trauma, and relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the stages of how addictions appear in our life and where addictions come from. And this is a model that has been followed in the psychological profession for probably talking about 70 years. And the model has to do with early childhood wounding.
Right. And then, this is a very, very important point, and I know that you have a lot to say about this. I do from time to time face with clients that they say, what my childhood has to do with this? You're just wasting my time. You want to focus on childhood.
Right. And I think a lot of times the public doesn't understand why psychologists and psychotherapists ask about childhood and pay childhood. And so I think what you're asking is a really good question.
Thank you.
Yes. In the beginning, there was childhood. And when we're born totally helpless. We have no control over what goes on in our lives. And we are totally powerless in terms of our survival. We cannot take care of ourselves. And if left unattended, we will die. So we need people around us to care for us. And if those people do a good job of caring for us, And caring, I'm using the term caring in terms of certainly physically, right? We depend on them to care for us, to feed us, to clothe us, to keep us warm, to change us, to make sure that we are clean, our bodies are clean, to make sure that we don't get sick, and if we do get sick, to treat us so that our sickness doesn't become serious, right? So we're totally dependent on people when we're born, and that dependency in the human species goes on for many years. We cannot take care of ourselves at 1 year old, or 2 years old, or even 5 years old. We need many years to learn because the human being and um, the human species is so complex. In order to make our way in the world, we really need a lot of abilities in order to take care of ourselves properly. So we need us to learn how to take care of ourselves, and that all begins in childhood. So the way that we learn in childhood is we learn by observing um, other people. I'm going to say our caretakers, and I'm just going to use the word our parents. It can be parents or parental substitutes. Um, but we need our parents to take care of us. And the first part, of course, is physically, but then we are also very complex, and we need to be shown how to deal with our emotions. Our emotions are a part of every human being that is very, very powerful, and it's where we live. It's where we live as children, and pretty much even throughout our lives, we live in our emotions. That doesn't mean that we don't have an intellect and that we can't understand things and figure things out, but what goes on emotionally is 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 the single most important factor in terms of us developing healthy self-esteem and healthy relationships, and being a happy and productive member of society. So how do we learn how to do this? How do we learn how to be healthy? We learn from observing the way our parents treat us, um, and the way our parents treat our siblings. And we learn the way our parents treat each other. And we learn from the way our parents treat themselves. We watch our parents very carefully. The first few years of our life, we're like eagle eyes. We're looking at our parents all the time, and we learn by copying them. And if they have if they have a very optimistic attitude, and if they're happy, and if they are loving, and if they touch us in a loving way, and if they smile at us, and they use a gentle tone of voice, all of that we record, just like tape recorders, right? We record all of it, and it becomes what we call in psychology imprints into our mind. We all have a conscious mind. That is what we're aware of in this moment. But we also have a subconscious mind. We also have what we call an unconscious mind. So the conscious mind is that part which navigates the world in the moment, but it's motivated by our beliefs and our values, which are all relegated to our subconscious and unconscious. So um, when we when we when we learn something, we don't have to keep relearning it because it goes into our subconscious minds, right? So when we learn how to tie our shoes, for example, we don't have to keep relearning it. But once we learn it, we don't have to keep thinking about it either, right? So if someone asks you, do you know how to tie your shoes? You would answer yes, but that doesn't mean that you're tying your shoes at that moment, right? You know that you know. So there's things we know that we know, but then there's things that we know that we don't know that we know, right?
We have no recollection of it.
We don't recollect. So do you remember, Dr. Rashidian, how you learned to walk?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I wish I knew.
how did
But
we?
I can only imagine looking at other infants.
Yes.
I can predict. I can guess.
Well, we can guess by
Yeah.
observing
Yeah.
the others, but we don't remember how
Right.
we learned to walk. Right. I've got two young granddaughters now. They're both 2.5, and
They're
I
so
saw.
adorable.
Well, and I saw them when they first couldn't do anything. All they could do is just lie there. Basically.
Yeah, I saw them too.
Right. They would just lie there, and before you know it, one of them started to learn how to turn over. And then we go, wow, she turned over. She turned over. And then once she learned it, she was turning over all the time. It's like, wow, I got some power. I can actually do this.
Now they're climbing their treehouse.
Now they're climbing up a treehouse at 2.5. Right. So, so there are things that we know, but we don't remember how we learned them. And there are many things like that. So what if we learned something, but it doesn't work for us now? So let's say, let's use the example of, let's say, a parent who gets angry very easily. And when a parent gets angry, it's very, very scary for the child, because the child is in the care of the parent. And the child can't stand up to the parent and can't say, hey, knock it off, or what are you angry about? The child just sort of feels the anger and has to adjust to it, right? So let's say we have one parent who gets angry a lot, and every time the parent gets angry, they scrunch up their face, and then they start to talk harshly. Why did you do that? You know that's wrong. Stop it. See? And so all of a sudden, we become sensitized to that. Now, what we did was we saw the parent's face getting scrunched up. Right. We associated that with them getting angry. Now we come into a therapist's office 30 years later. We're now 35 years old, and I'm working with a woman, and she goes, I can't stand it when my husband gets angry. And I said, okay, so tell me about how he gets angry. Well, he scrunches up his face, and then he says, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, how does he say I don't like that? She says, just like that. I don't like that. Yeah. And I said, so what's scary about I don't like that? He's just saying he doesn't like that. Well, I don't know, but he scrunches up his face when he does it, and I can't stand it. There's that in a nutshell. Yes. Is why childhood is important. Because if she doesn't understand that she saw her father do that, and that's triggering her, she's gonna start projecting that onto her husband as though he's her father, and she's helpless, a helpless 2-year-old again.
Exactly. And yeah, this is such a good example, because I have a client that she absolutely doesn't want to go through her childhood, and believes the behavior that she learned and the anger that she's experiencing was known to her since she married this guy. Mm-hmm. Right. And she's not in any way open to say, and she always says, oh, I had a loving parents, or I had a best parents, or I had a lovely childhood, I had a great childhood, we were poor, but we were happy, we were loving, and all of that. But then again, I learned how to be angry when I met with this man who's my husband right now.
Right. And so when someone says to me they had a loving childhood, then I say to them, oh, great, so you wouldn't mind talking about it, right? Mm-hmm. And if the person then says, well, there's no point to it, and I said, well, you're coming in here for help, I'm the expert, and I think there might be a point to it, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then if they don't want to talk about it, then I say, well, if I had a really loving childhood and someone asked me to share it, I would be happy to share about it, because I would start reliving that. Mm-hmm. I would start reliving all that happiness. What stops you from sharing it? And of course, the real reason is that there's pain there, and the person doesn't want to deal with the pain.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that the person is intentionally lying about their childhood.
No, it's just, they don't want to let go of the fantasy that they have built for themselves.
Right.
It's the fantasy that I had a great childhood.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because if that's the only thing that they have and they are able to hold on to, right? If they let go of that, then they feel like there is nothing else left for them.
Correct.
It's the fantasy that's really beautifully designed in their mind.
Yes.
And they live with that,
mm-hmm.
which is such a painful place to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So our childhood experiences, and not just our experiences, the way that we viewed our experiences. Because another example that I usually give to people is if you are standing on a street corner and there's three people standing next to you, and then on the corner across the street there's three other people, and then on the third corner there's three other people, and on the fourth corner there's three other people, and all of a sudden one car goes through the light and another car comes in and hits them. Do you think that everybody is going to tell the same story about how the car accident happened? And the answer is no.
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 Yes.
Why not? Because they're all standing in different places and they're seeing it from their point of view,
Yes.
from their perspective, right? And so seeing things from our own unique perspective informs how we view the world and informs how we believe the things that we believe.
Exactly.
And don't believe the things that we don't believe.
Right.
So right now we just got notification, right? We're going to have to stop for a few moments. We'd like you to call us when we come back, 951-922-3532. Bring up anything you like about your life, and we will do our best to listen and maybe offer some comments if you'd like.
Yeah, we like to hear from you.
See you soon.
KMET1490am.com.
Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-2-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. For those of you just tuning in, we are talking about codependency, addictions, trauma, and relationships. And we like to hear from you, so please call us at 951-922-3532. Also, please introduce this program to those people that you believe they can benefit from. And you may also visit us at our YouTube channel at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. Also, we do welcome your private calls and messages. Our contact information are listed at our homepage at KMET station. And also, you may listen to our archive program by going to playlist and click on Heart-to-Heart, and then there we are. And so, Dr. Jaffe, we were talking about childhood.
We were talking about childhood, and you asked the wonderful question.
Thank you.
Yes, of what do you say as to why to talk about their childhood? And so we were giving some explanations as to that. Another explanation that occurred to me during the break that sometimes I will say to someone is if your life is like a book and you skip over the first few chapters and you begin in the middle, how much of the book are you going to understand?
Right.
Right? So that's not to say that you won't get something from reading the last half of the book or the last 2/3 of the book, but you're not going to get the whole picture as though you were reading from beginning to end, right? So, and it doesn't matter what the book is. The book can be a fantasy story or it can be a reality, but anytime that you're not seeing the thing from beginning to end, you're not seeing the natural progression, and you're missing out on a lot of valuable information that you may need in order to solve the problems that you feel like you're having.
Yes, and those informations are about themselves. You know, those are the information that helps them to gain the insight about how they got from point A to the point B that they are today, which is not a happy place, and they want to go to point C, which is their dream place.
Right.
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 So without knowing what they have left behind, there is no way that they can get the new tools and use that and go to the future.
Right. Right. And so there are all different kinds of therapies, and some of them don't really deal with the past at all.
Right.
And I'm not saying that those therapies aren't worthwhile. They are worthwhile, uh, and and not just are they worthwhile, they can help people to overcome some severe problems that they're having. So if you're interested in a kind of therapy that doesn't deal with that, there are therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy that really just deals with changing the behavior, and those therapies can be very effective. So I'm not here to say that that those therapies aren't.
No, those are short-term therapy, and they focus on a particular form of behavior, and then elimination of that.
Right.
And it works for issues that they are not deeply rooted in the person.
Usually, yes.
Usually,
yes, yeah. So, but the kind of therapy that we do is a more of what we would call what we call object relations or psychoanalytic kind of psychotherapy, which deals with the whole person and allows the person to understand, and not just to gain intellectual understanding, but to gain emotional awareness.
But yeah, because this is how addictions happens, right?
Yes.
Addictions is not a behavior that somebody picks, and chooses to do just immediately or just because, it has a process that, we know that the root of addiction goes back to infancy, to childhood.
Often does, yes.
Often does,
yes.
Right.
So what is an infant or a child's biggest fear? And the answer to that is the biggest fear is abandonment, right? Because as we were talking about earlier, a child is unable to care for themselves and to survive in the world without someone taking care of them, right? They cannot go out into the world and get a job and start earning money and get an apartment and go grocery shopping and do all the tasks that adults need to do in order to survive in the world.
Right.
They depend on people who are older and their caretakers in order to make sure that they are taken care of. And without caretakers, the child will not survive. Now, being young doesn't mean that you're stupid. And so children understand that they need other people to take care of them. They know that they can't take care of themselves.
Well, that's why they become a dependent.
That's why that's why what?
They become so attached to their parents.
Yes, yeah, they become
Right.
attached to their parents
Right.
because that means that they get to survive. And if the parent is a good parent, they get to do more than survive, they get to thrive.
Right.
Right? They get to feel their own oats. They get to explore new things because when they turn around, they know that they can go back to their parent. Their parent is there to take care of them. So this is the formation of childhood, and the underlying fear for all children is abandonment. And abandonment is something that a child can't tolerate because it means it's saying basically you're going to die, and a child can't conceive of that, but they know that it's not something they want. We are all born with very, very powerful survival instincts. We're born with, as far as we know, we're born with three instincts. One is the fear of death, which is survival. The second is the sexual drive. And the third is the fear of falling. And people have said the fear of falling is really kind of mixed in with the fear of dying, right? If you fall, then you can die. So those things we believe are the basics. So what happens if a child is in a home and they are not being treated lovingly, they're not being treated respectfully, they are being bullied by an older brother or by the parents themselves. If they don't, and if the parent doesn't notice their emotions, doesn't care about their emotions, and only focuses on the child's behavior and labels the child as good or bad based on whether the behavior is pleasing to the parent or not, then the child begins to believe that they are in fact good or bad based only on their behavior, and they start to not understand what's going on emotionally for them,
Right.
right? And not understanding what's happening emotionally and how our emotions affect us and how our emotions impact our relationships with others is the precursor to a lot of bad things, right? So what is the precursor to? It's the precursor to depression. It's the precursor to anxiety. It's the precursor to many eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
It's the precursor to being super sensitive to stress, getting overwhelmed with stressful things. It's the precursor to compulsions. Got to wash my hands 20 times a day. And it's the precursor to chemical dependence. And it's the precursor to codependency.
So pretty much you're referring to a package of self-destructive behaviors.
Self-destructive behaviors.
Self-sabotaging behaviors.
Self-sabotaging behaviors that give us, and I'm saying us as people who didn't have the wonderful childhood.
Right.
I'm included in that. You're included in that.
Right.
So to give us a way of getting through it, we develop these things as coping mechanisms.
Right.
And
to ease the pain.
To ease the pain. Right. Right. And so sex can be a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. And sex can be a very powerful coping mechanism. And we find a lot of sex addiction in people, men and women, with sex addiction, more so men, but women also have sex addiction. And why is that? It's because sex feels good. And sex gives you and brings up endorphins and stimulates you and takes you out of any negative feelings for a short period of time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
True with all addictions. So the idea of overeating, eating too much, can be looked at as an addiction, and is an addiction in that it gives you a temporary feeling of fullness, right? And you love the taste, and you love the process of eating, and so your life becomes revolving around what's going to be for the next meal. So you're thinking about food, and you're always wanting to have plenty of food available. I'm not going to get into the other eating disorders. We're not going to be talking about that. However, what we are talking about is that addictions, and the primary addiction that we've been talking about for months now on our Friday show, is about codependency.
Right.
And that means that codependency just simply means dependency on your partner or on others in order to take care of your emotional needs. You haven't learned how to take care of your own emotional needs. So if you don't get your emotional needs taken care of, you don't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, you usually end up making a bad decision. And often people get into one relationship after another relationship after another relationship because they don't know what to do in terms of how to handle their emotions in the relationship. And they also don't know who's healthy for them to be in a relationship with.
Well, they just become attracted to the first person that gives them a piece of what they're looking for to feel comfortable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So people who overuse sex are attracted a lot to people who are very accommodating sexually. And so they get into relationships because the sex is so appealing, and they know that that's going to give them a positive sense of their self. Their self-esteem is buoyed by the sexual acquiescence of their partner. So the fear of abandonment starts as a child, very young, when we don't get our needs met. We don't get physical needs met, and or we don't get emotional needs met. And what happens to us internally is we develop a sense of I'm not good enough.
Right.
And we call that in psychology toxic shame.
Right.
Right. And toxic shame is very, very, very painful.
Well, it doesn't feel good when you feel like you're not good enough. And, interestingly, is that the feeling of I'm not good enough is probably, I would say, it's the first one that you get. It's the first one that you learn to feel about yourself.
When you're being treated
When
in
you're
a
being
way,
treated in a way,
yes, that isn't meeting your emotional needs.
yes, if I was good, my parents wouldn't treat me like this, especially those who have other siblings, and then parents usually pay more attention to one or the other one, depending on the age, depending on the circumstances, situation, the need of the other child. So one child may feel like, oh, I'm not getting that, or I'm not getting this, or that feels so special to that one and I'm not getting it. And so it's a combination of the behavior that is received. It's the combination of child's perceptions and then interpretations of the event.
Right.
That
Right.
gets them to a place. And of course, I'm not suggesting that only one time is enough to do that, but when these conditions are repeated a few times, then the child can internalize the feeling, that toxic shame that you talked about.
Yes.
The belief that if I was as good as the other one, I would have received some of that pie.
Exactly. Exactly. And what's interesting about families where there's more than one child, and the children are looking at each other and they're feeling jealous for what the other child is getting.
Yes.
They don't understand that the other child is feeling jealous for what they're getting,
what they're getting,
or whether they're not,
yes.
or what they're not getting. Like one child may be getting more toys, but also maybe getting more spankings.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then usually the first child who carries the most responsibility among all the siblings, they can't, as children are born and they are added to the family circle, and then the child says, oh, here comes another one, so I'm neglected more.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So that's
exactly.
why when as part of assessment process, I do focus on the number of children and the age differences and the male and femaleness of the children. Because that has such a huge impact on a child's perceptions about themselves.
Correct.
And some of my clients, they get shocked and say, why do you want to know about my brother or my sister? Just I'm here for my own problem. And they get kind of they get kind of upset as to why am I asking that. And then so it's a good thing that we're talking about these issues right now, so that hopefully general population can listen and to understand.
And we're going to be continuing to talk about it in our future programs. So the fear of abandonment, and if the needs aren't met, it leads to toxic shame, which is toxic shame is I'm not good enough, and if I'm not good enough, if the child is believing that he or she is not good enough, the next question is, why am I not good enough?
Right.
And what's wrong with me?
Right. So that's the guilt.
And well, that's the search.
The search
that the mind goes on to figure out what the problem is. Why am I not good enough? And so if I can figure it out, maybe then I can be good enough and get what I need.
Right.
So people come up with all sorts of reasons why they're not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not athletic enough.
I'm not rich enough.
All of the enough stuff that the child comes up with, and then if that is never examined, the child becoming an adult believes that for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. Yes.
And that informs many other problems. We'll be back in a few moments, and we'll continue this hopefully fascinating discussion.
It is fascinating.
Good. Okay.
Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio, Heart-to-Heart program. We're talking about codependency, addictions, trauma, and relationships. And we would like to hear from you, your experiences, your ideas about this topic. 951-922-3532. And Dr. Jaffe.
Yes, ma'am. So we're talking about what goes wrong in childhood and how that affects us as adults. And we talked about how, as children, we need to have caretakers. I'll just say our parents, or parent substitute, caretakers caring for our emotional needs as well as our physical needs. And our emotional needs are very, very important. Our emotional needs are mostly that we need to feel like we matter, like we're important, and that we are seen. We are seen for who we are as a wonderful little being in the world who has talents and abilities and can figure things out and is capable of giving and receiving love and is capable of learning and trying new things. And we need a lot of support for that. And what we need mostly is a mom and a dad who will tell us those things and show us those things, and a mom and a dad who will exhibit that they are those things. Because if a mom and a dad aren't those things, they can tell us that we are those things that we need to be. But if they're not exhibiting that they are those things, we begin to doubt whether they really can see who we really are, because we can see that they aren't they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk.
Right.
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 So,
And then we don't believe that those messages about us can be true.
right. Right. So we need to hear it from people who have it mostly together. Now, we're not talking about perfection. We have in psychology the concept of the good enough parent, right? And the good enough parent means that they meet the child's needs enough of the time, right? And enough of the time doesn't mean a specific amount of time. It means that the child feels safe and secure in their relationship. And that's something that is personal to every particular person. So we begin in life with a need to feel safe and secure. We have a fear of abandonment. If we don't get what we need, we develop toxic shame, and then we ask the killer question, which is, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
When we ask what's wrong with me, our mind goes on search. Just like right now, if you're sitting at home and you're thinking about a movie and you're saying, oh, what was the name of that actor, right, that starred in that movie? When you say that, your mind goes on search. Mm-hmm. And then you say, oh, gee, I can't think of it. I can't think of it. And then you start talking about something else, and then it pops into your head. That's because your mind has been going on search all that time. Subconsciously, you're not thinking about it, but it's going on. And then when it comes back online, it tells you what the answer is.
Well, yeah, that is such an interesting, phenomenon.
It is.
That how we get in touch with our subconscious.
Right. And that's really the purpose of good psychotherapy. And Freud said it. He said it's to make the subconscious conscious, because once we're conscious, like right now, I'm sitting here and some of you can see me and a lot of you can just hear me, but as I'm talking, I was moving my hand back and forth, right? I wasn't aware that I was moving my hand back and forth until a second ago, and then I go, oh, I'm moving my hand back and forth. So my subconscious movement of my hand back and forth was happening without my awareness. As soon as I became aware, now I'm aware, now I can do something different if I want. Because
you can use your hands to grab your cup of coffee.
I can grab my cup of coffee, I can put it down, I can keep moving it back and forth, I can grab my throat, I can cover my mouth, I can do whatever I want, because now it's conscious.
Yes, it is. So you're talking about toxic shame, and then the translation of that we know is, I'm not good enough.
Yes.
So how toxic shame becomes, I'm not good enough?
Yeah, so toxic shame, it begins because I'm not getting my needs met, right? So if I'm not getting my needs met, the question is, why am I not getting my needs met? Why am I, so I'll give you a perfect example, which is the example from my own life. Mm-hmm. I'm 5 years old. I live in New York with my mom and dad. My mom, we're in an apartment. My mom is in the kitchen, and she's about 6, 7 feet away from me, and she's cooking dinner. I'm sitting in the living room, and I'm playing with a toy, and I look up and I see my mom cooking dinner, and I'm playing with this toy, and and all of a sudden I feel this feeling of emptiness, and I feel sad, and I feel like I miss my mom, and now I'm confused. Why do I miss my mom? She's right here. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Then the question comes, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. What's wrong with me? I should be feeling happy because my mom is here. Now, my mom had a problem connecting emotionally.
Right.
My mom was very, very good at physical caretaking. My mom did love me, but she had her own injury and she didn't know how to connect emotionally with me. And I thought, of course, thought that, well, what's wrong with me? So I thought that there was something wrong with me.
But in fact, she was emotionally
She
disconnected
was
with you.
disconnected from me, but I didn't know that, and there's no way for me to know that. All I knew was I wasn't feeling the way I thought I should feel.
And that's why we say, subconsciously we communicate with each other.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes,
Right.
yes,
We subconsciously communicate.
right.
And then, this is how you probably felt disconnected from your mom
I,
and you miss your mom.
I missed my mom, and I felt
Right.
disconnected, but I also didn't know why.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
age, and you were not even a therapy person then back
No, I was
then.
5 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
So then now, as I'm asking why, the assumption is that there is something wrong with me. Now all I got to do is figure out what it is.
Yeah, because if I was, good, my mom would pay more attention to me.
Right. If I
Yeah.
was worthy, if I was,
Yes.
so now I'm at a place in this scenario that we're talking about where I already believe there's something wrong with me. Now I'm on a search to find out what it is. And if I don't come up with what it is, I'll keep searching.
Yes.
So as I go through my life, if that doesn't if it doesn't come out that my mom has a problem emotionally connecting with me, I will continue to feel as though there's something wrong with me, and I may find the things that I believe are wrong with me.
Right. And then sometimes this process continues for so long that, even though if we find the reasons that made us feel that way, we are so attached to the belief that, I'm not good enough, that sometimes it becomes sort of like a malignant belief. It doesn't go anywhere.
Well, it stays with us.
Yeah.
Until and unless, and this is why we do the kind of therapy that we
Right.
do, until and unless it becomes uncovered.
Right.
See, I didn't start off knowing this, that my mom was emotionally disconnected. I had to learn it in my own therapy, right? But until and unless that's uncovered, and then once it's uncovered, I have to take a look at how that's affected me and be willing to delve into it and talk about it, so that eventually I can I can get rid of that belief that there is something, in fact, something wrong with me. And if I've held on to that belief for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Because, that situation happened many other times.
Yes.
That's how you held on to it.
Right.
Right.
And if I hold on to that belief, it's still going to be affecting me. Now,
Right.
how do those negative beliefs affect us? Well, there's a lot of ways in which they affect us. And so in the case of codependency, they affect us by feeling as though I'm not complete in and of myself, and I need someone else to complete me. You're my other half. And therefore, I depend on you to be my other half. And if you're not my other half, then I'm in trouble because I'm not complete by myself. So I have to please you in order for you to want to please me. And I can't afford to say anything that might displease you, because then we're going to go back to the fear of abandonment. Then you're going to say, well, goodbye, and I'm going to be left alone, not being able to take care of myself emotionally.
So that's the beginning of codependency.
That's the beginning of codependency. Right. The opposite of that is what we call interdependency, which means that I am independent. I can take care of me. I can take care of me physically, and I can take care of me emotionally. That doesn't mean that I don't talk to other people and get help from other people when I need it, but I am resourceful and I can do it on my
Right.
own.
I am powerful enough that I can do that for
Right,
myself.
right.
Yes.
And so and also I'm not worried that I'm going to become too needy of you, so I can depend on you when I don't feel like I'm at my best, or when I'm physically ill, or when I'm stressed out. I can come to you and I can say, I need to talk. I need some help. I need a shoulder to cry on. I need you to hug me. I can do that. So I can now be both independent and dependent, and I don't have a problem doing either. And that means that I'm interdependent.
Yes, interdependent.
So that means that that's a healthy relationship where I'm taking care of me, you're taking care of you, but we can also come together and take care of each other when we need to.
Right. I mean, we see that in relationships, that how couples, they become so highly dependent on each other, or one becomes the boss, basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the parental
Or
figure
the
to the other
parental
one.
figure to the other.
Yeah,
Right.
they actually act out a parent-child
Right.
relationship
Right.
with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, there are other things that, we don't have time to discuss them, like projections and all of that.
Right.
That it happens, and it's, and this is how the root cause. This is the root cause of many of conditions that adults experience in their lives.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And so we've only got a few more minutes, but in that time, I want to comment on trauma, because what we're really talking about is childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma, yeah.
And childhood trauma does not have to be that the child that you were beaten, and it doesn't have to be that you were sexually abused. You can be traumatized. You can traumatize a child in any number of ways, because children are very, very dependent. And all you got to do is raise your voice a little bit, and they become really attentive, because you're threatening their safety, and they know they need you.
Yes.
Right. So there's two kinds of traumas. There are the big traumas, right? The heavy traumas, which are physical abuse and sexual abuse. Of course, there are natural traumas like earthquakes and hurricanes. And there's also emotional abuse, where you call the person names, or you belittle the person, or you yell at the person. That's emotional abuse.
Right.
There's also religious abuse, where you say God's going to hate you if you continue to touch yourself down there. See, these are all kinds of traumas. And then there are the minor traumas, which are the slights to the person, which say, well, you're just a girl.
Yeah.
See, and that's not a big trauma, but it's a slight trauma that can impact the person just as powerfully as any of the big traumas.
Yes.
So we'll stop there.
We'll stop there, and there is so much to talk about this, and we would like to invite you to please join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. for an episode about human sexuality with myself and with Dr. Jaffe. And then our second part of program starts at 4 p.m. just like today, where we continue to talk about trauma, addictions, codependency, and relationships. So until next Thursday, happy Valentine's Day. Be safe, be well, and enjoy your beautiful, loving time together or by yourself. And don't forget that all you need is love.
All you need is love.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.